Hello and welcome to my I think third video on Hyperscape. We are like getting down dirty deep into Hyperscape today. I'm so happy, so like passionate and thrilled, reinvigorated to make YouTube videos again. So today we're going to be going through my experience. Like, I'm going to go through a tier list of weapons in Hyperscape. Now, as always, if you're watching this video, you're on console, or if you're just watching this video to support me, and then, you know, you can always come back later on once you pick up the current best battle royale that's going on right now. This video will always be here, so you can always come back and click on it. I'm going to go through my tier list of weapons. Now, I made one over on Tier Maker, so thank you to the person who did this. I think it's by Astral Carry over on Tier Maker, so thank you for this. You made my life a whole lot easier. And I was originally doing this, I already had my whole tier list made up, and then I came across a PC Gamer article. Now, I didn't really agree with their list, and I'll put a link to it if I remember down in the description. You can compare mine with theirs. Our top couple really matched up, but then once we got down a little bit, that's when things started to get messy. So obviously, I'm going to give my reasoning for why I put these in certain areas, but let's just get right into it. And we're going to actually start at the bottom. Now, the very bottom of C, I have the DTap, and you're probably thinking, like, you know, if you don't know, the DTap is an auto-locking pistol. So if you can click fast enough or pull the trigger fast enough while keeping people in like the general area of where your cursor is, where like the center of your screen is, you can do a lot of damage. It does 5 damage a hit. So in theory, you would have to click 20 times in order to kill them at its base level. So it's just really not all that powerful. If you're like in a pinch, this is in my opinion one of the worst weapons in the game, and in a pinch it's still not that bad. So if you're caught out with it, don't worry, just do your best to avoid shots and keep ADSing and shooting. Now, next up on this list, down on the bottom, and this is where my list really disagrees with the PC Gamer, I have the Komodo. And now, this might be a little bit controversial. Not everyone is going to agree with this one, but it just feels like a slightly worse version of the Skybreaker. And when I mean slightly worse, I mean like, you know, significantly worse. Basically, it shoots a sphere of energy, and when it hits, it doesn't do that much damage. Now, you get 4 shots in the base magazine, and then it upgrades all the way to 8, but it just doesn't feel very powerful, and it shoots very slowly, and it also takes a long time to hit its target. Its projectile speed is very low. That's why I have it rated so low. And next up, we're going to talk about the Hex Fire. When the game first dropped, I noticed a lot of people were using the Hex Fire, but as time has gone on, I think a lot of people are realizing that it's not as good as they originally thought. Now, if it's a gold Hex Fire, that's a different story, because you have that extra damage and you have that extra magazine size. You're up to like almost 300 rounds in a magazine. I believe it's 280, but with that slight damage buff, it actually does quite a bit of work. However, at its base level, I really don't pick up the Hex Fire much. It just doesn't really seem worth it, especially because a lot of the guns higher up are very heavy hitting. Moving into B tier though, we have the Ripper coming up first. This is your just standard base model assault rifle in a video game. It does an okay amount of damage. It starts at 11 damage. However, the recoil is not difficult, but I would definitely describe it as strange. It will take you a little bit of time to get the recoil down on this gun, especially if your targets are moving. So the damage just, at least to me, doesn't really seem to balance out with the combination of the difficulty to hit moving targets as well as the recoil. You have to land 10 bullets in order to kill somebody, and while that doesn't sound like all that much when you're actually like in the moment in the fight, because the game is so fast, that's actually very difficult. Now we're gonna move on and talk about the Salvo. This gun is really good. It does a lot of damage. It has a lot of rounds in its magazine. However, the thing that holds it back is how circumstantial it is. This gun will absolutely demolish teams if you're in close quarters. However, at least the way I take fights and I engage fights is mostly outside in the streets or at range or on rooftops, and this gun just is not very good there. However, if you get a gold one late game, I would recommend hanging on to it, since people, when they pick up the crown, like to hide in buildings. So you definitely can do some big time damage with it. It just is very circumstantial, which is why it's so low on this list. We're going to move on, though, and talk about the Riot 1, which is basically just your heavy-hitting revolver. Compare it to the Wingman in Apex Legends, or the Magnum in PUBG, or even McCree's Peacekeeper in Overwatch. It kind of has that similar, very little recoil, but it doesn't do like the craziest amount of damage. It starts off at 26, which means you have to land either 4 body shots or 3 headshots, since it does 39 damage apiece there. This gun is incredibly good if you're like a human aimbot. Like for Shroud, this gun is probably a top pick. I haven't watched him play too much of this, but for him, that probably is an easy go-to. But for anybody who isn't like the top 5% of players, the movement in Hyperscape is very rapid, very quick, and it's very difficult to track people, especially with that double jump. So that's why I have this at the top of B. It's a very good gun. It just has a very high skill cap that's holding it back. Moving up into A, though, and I think a lot of you guys are going to have differing opinions on this, but I actually put the Mammoth here. And the reason that I have it up so high is not necessarily because I would, engage a fight and have it out and lead with it, but it really greatly complements other weapons. Really, almost any gun that you have, even if you only land a couple bullets, it will get you to the point where one shot from the Mammoth will kill. At a closer range, you can do up to 40 damage with the Mammoth while you're ADSing. So even if you only land 2 riot shots, or if you hit 2 salvo shots, or 1 Skybreaker shot, the Mammoth is so easy to shoot, and the spread on it is so perfect for cleaning up targets. Like, it's almost a must-have for me if I'm not running my perfect loadout, which we're going to talk about. I've discussed it in previous videos, but I'm going to quickly bring it up again here. But yeah, the Mammoth is in that A spot because it's the absolute perfect cleanup weapon. Moving on, though, we have the Skybreaker in the top of A, and the Skybreaker is just a phenomenal weapon. If you haven't used it yet or haven't seen it used, essentially it's like the BFG from Doom. You get 1 shot in each reload, but it does a lot of damage. It starts you off with a baseline of 39 damage and brings you all the way up to above 80. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but it's quite a bit of damage. The thing that really makes me rate this so much higher than the Komodo is how large its splash effect is. In theory, if you catch a team inside a building with it fully maxed out, if you were to shoot just 1 shot of it into the building, you could do a combined 240 damage, because you do 80 per target. So you can do some serious damage with the Skybreaker. It's one of my favorite weapons for sure in this game. I very rarely ever pass one up. But moving into our S tier, we have the Harpy in our first position there, as second away from the best gun in the game, in my opinion. Now, the reason that the Harpy is so high up on this list, even though I don't really use it, is kind of what I had to say about the Riot 1, how good it is, but how it's very difficult to use. The Harpy is similar to that, except that it does so much damage so quickly. You do 7 damage per shot. However, you can kill somebody in just about a second. I don't have the exact DPS in front of me, but it's incredible how much damage you can do with the Harpy, even without upgrades. It's a go-to for just about every pro player and every content creator right now. My perfect loadout is the Skybreaker and the Protocol, so I don't really use it very much, but I'm more of a dealing damage and letting my teammates clean up kind of player. If you're more of that lone wolf, standalone, push-in kind of player who's ready to take fights and clean up after themselves, the Harpy is definitely your go-to weapon. However, the number 1 spot on our tier list has to go to the Protocol 5. This sniper rifle is so crazy, and once you get some upgrades on it, it's far and away the best weapon in the game. I'm talking about dealing like 80 damage body shots and one-shot headshots once you get it maxed out. And sniping in Hyperscape is not as difficult as you think because it's hit scan. Think, you know, if you're coming over from Apex Legends, think the charge rifle, but without any charge up time. Plus, enemies through the scope are scanned in digital threat, which means that it's very easy to track targets, to keep track of who you're aiming at. And I found that it's fairly easy to predict the movement patterns and the drop speeds, just basically any kind of projectile falling arcs in Hyperscape once you get used to the game. So the Protocol 5 is by far the most deadly weapon in the game. This is my tier list though. I'll have the complete thing up on the screen for you guys to check out right now. Do you agree with it? If you haven't played the game yet, wait until you can get your hands on it and then come back, rewatch, and tell me if you agree with it or not. I strongly recommend either running the Protocol Harpy or the Protocol Skybreaker, since that, for me, has done the best in helping me win more games. That's going to be the end of this video, though, guys, so thank you so much for sticking around till the end. I hope you really enjoyed this video and found it entertaining and informational. If you did, make sure to hit the like button on your way out, as it really helps me in search results, and I'm trying to grow in the Hyperscape community right now, so that is crucial to this video. I would really appreciate it. And if you're not already, you can hit that red subscribe button for more content every single day. That's all for me for today though, guys, so until tomorrow, take it easy.